Hello, welcome to the introduction to Blackboard. I know that every professor you have uses the Blackboard differently. I am using the Blackboard as a way to keep our class together. I always find my students miss most, those who are online or even partially online, they miss most the interaction that they have with other students in the classroom. So let's consider Blackboard a place of interaction. As you can see, your course content contains learning modules, Tegrity classes, discussions, writing assignments, and a place to take tests. The learning module, as you can see, is like a big feast. It's a goodie bag. The learning module is my way of teaching this course for you. Of course, you have your book, and you're going to move from chapter préliminaire to chapter 3, but you're not doing it by yourself. You have a professor who has organized the teaching, even the assignments that are due on the book in the iLearn are organized to fit into my architecture of the course, which is 10 modules. That means 10 focuses. So for example, préliminaire 1, this is my screen, it's not yours. In your screen, it's a little different. Préliminaire 1 is being taught with the focus on hearing the French alphabet and the different sounds of French and becoming familiar with those sounds, and then reading and even practicing first greetings in French. And so, for example, in this case, you need to go to the learning module and open up this, what I call an abécédaire. It's like a list of kind of the alphabet and words that illustrate each letter. You need to open this up when you watch the first Tegrity class. And then there's all kinds of fun links that are all YouTube links. YouTube about saying bonjour. One YouTube about saying comment allez-vous. Another saying ça va. You know, just different parts of a conversation in which people say hello, how are you? There's even a YouTube in which a French girl teaches you. I think it's a really cute YouTube. And another one where a French guy teaches you. Somewhere. Oh, I think it's... Yeah, here's a lesson from an American guy who speaks French, and here's a lesson from a French girl who speaks English for her YouTube people. I try to get a lot of different voices involved so that you don't feel like you're alone, because after all, you're learning a language, and language is about communication with people you want to get to know, and it's about communication across cultures. In every learning module, you will find different documents and approaches that I have developed so that the class lesson feels fun and it feels real and it feels interactive. It feels like you're contacting the world, both the world of your little online classroom and the world of French speakers. And there's always going to be one link to the discussion board. Again, you don't have to use the learning modules, although that's kind of like saying you don't have to use the class time with the teacher to learn. Do it by yourself. But you do have to participate in the discussions for points. You don't have to watch the Tegrity classes, but if you don't watch the Tegrity classes, you're making the class work harder for yourself because you're forfeiting the help of a professor and other fun links. But you do have to participate in the discussions. You can get to the discussion board through the learning module, or you can go directly to the discussion board page. Discussions are always due, on Tuesdays. You'll notice that the iLearn is set up to be in phase with the Blackboard. They're both following this kind of learning module structure. Sometimes a learning module may last 2 weeks. Sometimes it may last 1 week. There are 10 learning modules, but we have 16 weeks in the semester. you start off on a Wednesday, and then you start wrapping up by Tuesday, although I think you should be posting these discussion boards kind of midweek, like around Friday, so that everyone can kind of take part. And it gives you time to respond to others or to think about what others are saying in the discussion boards. So the first discussion board is just introduction. That's like the getting started module. Here's like the first learning module 1. Skits from everyday life in French. And so in this learning module, I ask you to give 2 examples of conversations you have with people. And in one conversation is going to be in the more formal way of speaking, and the other one in the more informal. Now, by the time you're inside the learning module and working with the textbook and the first activities that are assigned on iLearn, you'll understand that this is the major theme. What's different about this activity, which is actually based on one of the textbook activities in your book, this activity is an activity you're completing with your class. You're participating in a collective forum, and you're seeing how other people are participating. The rule of thumb for discussion boards is obviously you have to be very polite and professional, just as if you were in the classroom with people. And don't be too wordy. Don't write posts that are too long. Remember that when you're in a collectivity, you don't say every single thing that's on your mind. You're focusing on communicating with others and being useful. So every week, or every 2 weeks, depending on how long the learning module is, you have these different kind of communication-based, skill-based, kind of demonstrative learning activities as a class. And, you get 10 points every week, so in the end it's like 10% of your grade. And I use these topics. These are like interactive topics. These topics are very close to what your speaking exam will be like. The speaking exam is part of the midterm and then part of the final exam. There's 2 moments in the semester where I'm going to send out a kind of sign-up 2 weeks before the midterm and 2 weeks before the final, and you're going to sign up for really quick 5-minute phone sessions with me, in which we're going to have a small conversation in French, just so that I can see that it's not just typing. You type in the discussion board. I also want to see that you are using different audio links and that you're actually practicing, by speaking out loud when you come in. For example, learning module 2 is a kind of round robin in which you introduce yourself and then you introduce one other person in the class. So imagine in our phone conversation, I will actually ask you, comment vous appelez-vous? And vous êtes d'où? Where are you from? And you'll have to be able to respond. You'll also use your time on Blackboard not only to listen to the Tegrity lectures, but also to get going on your writing assignments. You have 2. One is a more academic type, the cultural grades paper. You can learn about it here, and you can submit it here. And the other one is what I call a scrapbook journal. Obviously, you're French 101, so it's not really easy to ask you to do a writing assignment in French. But a scrapbook, as you can imagine, there's just little scraps and pieces in it. You can start kind of creating a French writing document. You have 6 different categories that you fill in throughout the semester. New vocabulary and grammar words, geography, some history that you find interesting, culture, politics and government, and stereotypes. I would like you to address 3 different stereotypes you've heard about French people or the French language, and offer another perspective on the stereotype. Here's the rubric to follow. The form of your scrapbook is a journal. So when you do the scrapbook, as you can see, I can click here. I actually click on the link, and you can start creating journal entries in which you copy-paste different ideas and different words. You can insert images, you can insert embedded media, you can insert mashups, you can kind of play with the font. You know, as a scrapbook would be kind of fun and like a collage of different ideas that express your research and your interest. So too is your journal, and the journals are open to people, so people can do their own work, and they can also look at other people's work. And I think I may do this alongside you because it's fun to share. You can contact me using messages, and you can also try to contact me using Wimbo, which is like a Blackboard messenger. If you say, you know, I really need you to get in touch with me, I need to have a little session. Yeah. Oh, you see, I have all of your names here. Oh, and then the tests. You have the midterm, and then you have the final. And you are going to take them at the testing center, because you need to go to the testing center for the password. And also it's part of the the regulation of distance learning in Maryland is about 30% of the grade must be proctored. So you'll go to midterm and final in Blackboard. I explained in the Tegrity on iLearn about how you work on your online book that I made the midterm and the final using textbook activities. You have the speaking test that's part of the midterm. You'll sign up for that 2 weeks ahead of time. And then the listening quizzes, those don't take place on Blackboard. Those take place on iLearn, where you also do your homework and some of your, you play around with your book and you use your book. Okay, well, I hope that you enjoy getting started. I've given you your sign up on how to get into the iLearn, and you've got your syllabus, and I've mapped out all of the different kind of spaces that we're going to be using to learn together, and the spaces you will be using and I will be monitoring for your individual progress. But at this point, you really just have to play around. When you get a little bit confused, it may be because you need to take a break or step back and watch one of these My Blackboard tutorials. But if there's one thing you should come away from with this, you know that you have about 10 learning modules. You have a calendar that reinforces the pace. So for example, you use the first couple days of class to get going, and then you've got your first learning module. Actually, I'll say begin learning module 1. Chapitre préliminaire, lesson 1. Begin that on Wednesday. First discussion due on the 10th, as well as your homework. Begin learning module 2 following Wednesday. And again, the learning modules are my way of teaching you the chapter préliminaire through to chapter 10. I break up, for example, the first part of chapitre préliminaire into almost 3 weeks, because that I find is one of the most challenging parts of the book, is the very beginning. Also, I stretch out certain lessons that are the major lessons of French 101 over 2 weeks. For example, the adjectives, the ER verbs, and the, what's the other one that takes 2 weeks? Especially the adjectives and the ER verbs. Those are your major lessons. And then the verbs être and avoir. And so everything's paced out for you. You have reminders about when you need to have posted for the discussion. However, this is just for Blackboard. This calendar gives you the pace of the learning modules and the discussions and the assignments that you have to submit in Blackboard. For the course content, for homework, and for everything that has to do with iLearn, go to the calendar on iLearn. You have 2 separate calendars, and they're totally in sync. Okay. Bon courage!